This is Umar Ahmed for Rafael TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. When the aftermath of Canelo's shocking loss to Rematch Bivol, how shocked are you, Dan?
I'm not totally shocked. I mean, we did the interview beforehand when we talked about it. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I picked Rematch Bivol to win the fight. But if you go back and look at that video, which is going to live forever on YouTube, I was not saying that Bivol had no shot. I thought he was a really live dog. I thought it was a dangerous fight. I said it from the moment the fight was made. I thought without question it was his Canelo's toughest opponent since he was a middleweight after the second fight with Triple G. That Bivol was, definitely a much better fighter than the super middleweights that he has faced: Callum Smith, Hildrum, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant. This Rematch Bivol would beat all those guys and do so probably, similarly easily the way that Canelo did. So, not a total shock. Not a total shock at all. And, he fought a great fight.
We saw Rematch Bivol hurt a little bit against Joe Smith Jr. at the end of one of the rounds in the fight. Canelo didn't seem to hurt him at all tonight. Did that surprise you, Dan?
Not particularly. I mean, look, Joe Smith, I was at that fight. Joe Smith's a heavy puncher as a light heavyweight. He's a really good puncher. And the fact that Canelo could not hurt him, I can't say it was a total shot. I thought he might have a little more success working the body, which he seemed to really not go after too much. He was looking for headshots. I thought Canelo did land, by the way, a number of very solid right hands. He was coming right around the side of his gloves and hitting him like on the side of the face. And, I thought maybe they may catch up to him. But Bivol was so steady that, he just looked like he was, it's like a walk in the park for him. I mean, he took some shots. He never really budged. He backed up a few times. And Canelo he was kind of maybe getting tired. His face was getting marked up. He was getting hit with right hands. And just a tough night in the office. I mean, this is an example of times when weight classes are created for a reason. He was not fighting an old, faded, beyond his best days, Sergey Kovalev. He was fighting in his prime, at his best, Rematch Bivol. It's a different animal.
After tonight, who is pound for pound number one?
That's a good question. I have to think about that. I don't know. I'm gonna go back and study. I mean, the candidate. I mean, obviously it's gonna cost Canelo his spot for sure. Who's gonna be next? I know a lot of people will say Terrence Crawford. I don't agree with that because he doesn't have the resume that bears it out, even though he's a tremendous fighter. So I would not have Crawford won. Inoue's been a little bit inactive and hasn't really faced a good opponent for a while.
Could you say Bivol?
I don't think I would put Bivol number one. He's certainly going to move up for sure. Somebody's going to wind up number one, but the reality is it's almost kind of like it's a vacant title. I mean, you could consider Spence. I know he just beat Ugas very convincingly. He beat Sean Porter, pretty well. He's won a number of fights in a row. He's beaten, whoever it is, Danny Garcia, also a very good performance, and so on and so forth. So I think he could have that conversation. It's a tough question.
Everyone I spoke to near me, ringside of the press area, and also online, I've seen had Bivol really wide in the fight. So are you surprised by the 115-113 result on all cards?
Yeah, I mean, that was a little surprising, and I think the reason that it was surprising like that was because all three of the judges gave Canelo the first 4 rounds, which seemed a little bit surprising. Personally, I had it 8 rounds to 4, but after like 6 rounds, it was in no doubt because he was just like a rock going downhill. He was winning all the rounds, and Canelo was slowing down, and it was very obvious that he wasn't going to be able to score a miracle knockout because he didn't really seem to have a lot of snap on his punches, by the second half of the fight. And what snap he did have on his punches in the first half of the fight, Canelo dished out and Bivol took with no problem. So I'm glad that he fought the 12th round. He didn't do the old Oscar De La Hoya thing against Trinidad and sit on what he thought was a lead. He went out there and he fought his rear end off in the final round because if he doesn't win the final round, it winds up a draw. And then we're having a whole different conversation right now. What a disastrous scoring and what a controversy it is. But the right guy won, and the mess is hidden in those scorecards.
Last question: what is your gut feeling? What happens next? Does he take that rematch with Rematch Bivol, or do you think the Golovkin trilogy happens?
Well, I asked, he had kept saying in the ring and then also here at the press conference, he said he was going to do the rematch. And I asked him, are you committed definitely to that next, or would you perhaps reconsider what would probably be also a very big fight where you defend your titles at super middleweight against Golovkin, and also would you still be committed to fighting in September? He said in the answer to my question, after saying he wanted the rematch all along, he was non-committal. He said, we'll talk about it, we'll think about it. So he did not commit to fighting Dimitri in the immediate next fight, or Triple G, or fighting in September. So right now, look, he just lost a really tough fight. He's been, lauded for so long as the pound-for-pound king, and tomorrow's going to be a rough day to wake up to. When he realizes that, people are still going to love him, people still respect him. I respect him for taking the challenge. Obviously, you shouldn't turn on him because he lost because he went up in weight and took on a tough, solid, quality fighter that was at worst like the number 2 guy in the weight class. But tomorrow's gonna be hard for him in the next couple of weeks as he deals with the fallout of this, and him and his team, Eddie Hearn and Eddie Reynoso, and they're gonna have to sit down and really think about it. If I'm Canelo Alvarez, if I'm his manager, if I'm Eddie Reynoso, ain't no way I'm taking that rematch. What's the old? I mean, I'll quote from the great Rocky 2. We don't need this in our life. We don't need him in our life, and Canelo does not need Dimitri Bivol in his life.
Dan, Rafael, thank you very much for your reaction to a historic night at the T-Mobile Arena, and I'm sure I'm going to see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Welcome, Team Everlast, to the Team Everlast Fitness app. Download the Everlast Fitness app and find your greatness within.